This is Steve Saxon, Jim Jones of Veterans in Politics. We have Mabel Lozano. She's going to be discussing the corruption in the Orange County courtroom in California. Apparently, these corruption just doesn't stay in Clark County, but it spreads out. But before we get to Mabel, Jim, you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick, couple things. Number one, I want to make sure that, and I don't know if you did it or not when I wasn't here, but I would like to dedicate this show to Stanley Washington, who they're having his celebration of life today. And then they'll also be having a float at the Martin Luther King parade on Monday, starting at 10. So I just wanted to mention Stanley Washington. Good friend of mine. I didn't even know who Stanley Washington was. He heard something I said at a Meet the Candidates event years ago when I was running for the assembly. And right after I got done talking, he came up to me and we started talking about government and different things. And he's a really good guy. It's unfortunate that he passed as young as he did. But, you know, the thing about him that I really appreciated was how dedicated he was to giving back to his community. And that's why I think it's Katie Duncan has been one organizing that. I think it's fitting that they're going to have a float for Stanley for the Martin Luther King Jr. parade on Monday, because it was so interesting to me that Stanley and I lived basically in the same neighborhood. We both lived in Ward 5. Well, at that time I didn't, but my parents did. And then I moved back after my dad had passed. And so we had a lot of things in common. And I just think that that's something that Martin Luther King Jr. was very passionate about. He wanted us to get over this racial divide and for everybody just to realize we're all people. We all have our challenges and we all go through the same stuff. So I just wanted to take a moment of silence for Stanley.
Yeah, Stanley was a good guy. I enjoyed him. I don't think I had any bad thing to say about him in all the years I've known him. Very passionate individual. And maybe sometimes too passionate at times, I don't know. But I know that he was, last time we spoke, he was talking about some type of underground railroad system. And he's a visionary too,
yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate that he passed the way he did.
Yeah. And then
hit his head on the sink in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Isn't that craziness?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Can't even take a shower without hazards.
Stuff like that happens sometimes. But like I was talking with Katie Duncan, and we interviewed her. Very nice lady. And I'll be attending the parade with them. And we were discussing a couple things, but then I just said, yeah, she was saying the same thing. It's unfortunate the way he passed and that he passed so young. But ironically enough, he was born the same exact year as both my mom and dad.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things I was talking with Katie about was I said, hey, you know what? Sometimes, you know, God has a plan for everybody. And I have this theory that, like, a lot of good people pass young. The reason why is because they've figured life out yet. They've already figured it out. So they need to go be with God, and now it's our turn to figure it out.
Well, I don't want to figure it out for a while then, if that's the way it goes.
Me either. And then since we're talking about family court, just real quick, congratulations to Michael McDonald.
Oh, yeah. Hope for prisoners.
Yeah. And thank you for having me come.
Yeah. Mike McDonald's a good guy. Too bad he went to prison because he wanted to be in his son's life.
Oh, wow.
And you got all these deadbeat dads that want nothing to do with their kids, and they're always talking about how kids grow up without fathers, and here we have fathers that want to be in their kids' life, and they lock them up because they want to be in their kids' life. Go figure.
Yeah, it was really cool because when he saw us, he was so surprised that we would show up. Now, he probably wasn't surprised that you showed up because you have a big heart. Despite what people may think, you have a big heart and you care a lot about people. So it was nice to see that he was happy to see us.
Well, I tell people I could be your best friend or your worst nightmare. Pick a side. Pick a side. All right, so we done with Well, thank you for that, Jim. Yeah. Well, we got Mabel Lozano. Ma'am, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I now live in Las Vegas, obviously. I live here, and I'm now married. I have...
Congrats. How long have you been married for?
A little bit going on over a year. A little bit going on over a year. We're almost
stage.
going to 2 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, great husband now.
Okay.
A little bit before, I moved to Nevada from California, obviously.
So you're the people that come down here and you bring all that crap you're running from and you bring it right here in Nevada.
No, not me, sir. The crap in California.
All your doggone taxes down here.
Not me, sir.
You drive when there's a sprinkle of rain on the ground going all slow.
Oh, no. Don't be trying to blame me for what other people do. I follow the speed limit. I'm like an old lady now over here.
What state am I living in? All these California license plates.
No, I don't drive fast.
Come here, you buy up her housing. Right?
You have a house for me to buy?
You buy up her house because all your taxes and high inflation rate.
To be fair, it was 3 years ago before the whole COVID and everything happened. So
you want to pass then?
Yeah, I get a pass. Of course, I didn't want one. I thought I got one.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay, so going back from before when my kids were stolen, or my child was stolen. I say kids because they're stealing everybody's kids. Mm-hmm. So always single. I've always been a single mom, single provider for both of my kids. They both from the same father. Their father.
How old are they?
My eldest is 23.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then my youngest right now is 16 years old.
Okay.
And I haven't seen him in 3 years.
Wow.
It has been a complete nightmare. I used to manage a psychology office in Irvine for a very well-known doctor that did psychological testing, neurological testing, children with Crittenton, list goes on and on. I was managing the psychology office, and you know how it is to work for a private doctor. Mm-hmm. During this time, I got sick from my intestine.
They want their coffee black.
She was on it, but I'm talking about the money. She doesn't like that, but with the money is different. So anyways, going back to what I was saying, I was always taking care of my kids. If I didn't work there before that, I used to work at Mortgage Home Loan Center, the Lending Tree Loans as a mortgage loan processor. I was in that too. I used to manage Golden West Towing Equipment. It's not a tow truck company. It's where they build the tow trucks. I used to do the administration for that too. Mm-hmm. So I've always taken care of my kids, Their father, I left them when he was 7 years, when my youngest was born and the oldest one was 7 years old. Because he was doing drugs, I didn't want my kids to grow up like that.
He was what?
He was doing drugs and all this other stuff. Well, because I don't want to get here and bash him. There's no point.
Okay. Like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like blah, 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 blah. It's a new word. I learned that over here in Vegas.
Make sure I know what
I know, right? So I went ahead and I left them. I didn't want my boy. I have 2 boys now. I'm responsible for whatever if they have children, I am responsible for whatever they give out into this world. I need to make sure they're men.
How they treat women.
Exactly.
Right.
How to treat yourself, basically. Right. Not only women, but how to treat another human being and yourself. Right. So that went ahead. Never an issue. I just kept working. Mm-hmm. During this time, I come from a family where they're always fighting. I didn't live with them since I was 15 years old because of the corporal punishment I used to receive there. Now, that was different time. Mom grew up in different times. I love my mom. It's just nothing to do with it. However, this family does have a history of mental problems and not me, them. Just want to make sure I clear that out. So what the judges are doing is they're getting involved in these kind of things, and I'll get to that later. They're like sometimes I feel like they're the parents. The judges are the parents of all of ours. They own all of us, all of our children. That's what they're making it seem like. And if there's a problem, they're going to find out. It's like the whole time I was waiting for my mom to come out behind with a belt or something. Like, that's how bad it is. She got involved into personal problems. So anyways, taking care of my kids, managing psychology office. My kids were always had their own room, or always in a house, were always had the latest gadgets, iPhones. I mean, you name it. My kids had it all by myself.
So you were a good provider.
I was the provider. $1,750 is not easy rent to pay when you're out there alone as a single mom, right? With a car payment and everything. Never had my kids in an old car. Never gave them absolutely everything. So during this time, I get sick from my intestine. They were cutting 10 to 13, and I'm still working. Now I'm going back to when this all began. During this time, I'm getting sick, right? I get sick from my intestine. I see doctors out there at Kaiser, California. It's like a big medical corporation out there. And every 6 months, they cut 10 to 13 inches of my intestine. I even had blood transfusions by myself. My family was never there for me.
Every 6 months, they're cutting into your intestine?
Yes, because what happened is the first surgery, they butchered
inches?
10 to 13 inches. I have that on documentation.
How many times have they done that?
5 times now. Well, 4, I've had 5 surgeries, and 4 times they've cut the intestine.
Because the intestines don't grow anymore, right? That's it. Once you cut it, it's gone.
Exactly.
What's that? A word that starts with D.
What happened was Kaiser butchered me. That's what happened. That's what happened. I went in and I'm getting all personal right here. I went in and I had a colonoscopy. And since I was the only one in my entire family that ever had problems, and they told me, oh, you need a surgery. I took the surgery. How long do I have to be off work? Oh, well, like 2 months. You're going to be in the hospital for 10, 13 days. I have to work though. So I'm like, okay, I'll have it. It's not a big deal. No. So I had should have looked into it more. I had the surgery, and nobody from my family was there. My son at that time was already like driving with a license, 17, and my other son was 10. So he's the one that drove me to the hospital. On my 4th surgery, the neighbor drove me to the hospital. Nobody from my family ever drove me to the hospital. When I gave birth to my son.
Why is that?
Well, because that's just the way they are. I've always been like that. It's just a broken family. And when you have to take care of your family, I'm not going to sit there and cry because they're not like that. It's just life. You just continue going until the judge gets involved. And then it's not life no more. Then it's the sea. Anyway. So I'm getting this, and at the same time I'm working. I'm still going to work, and the doctor knew that. Okay. The psychologist knew that. So I was even having the whole thing that the thing that you put on when they cut your intestines off and they give you this big old thing. I was going to work with that, putting it on in the freaking, when the patients weren't there, I would go to the little waiting room and put it on like that, put it on. And I was working 3-4 days after my surgery. That happened. And then the reason it was every 6 months was because they said that it didn't work the first time. So they had to wait, and they have to wait 6 months in order to touch your testes again. So that was that, right? So, and that was that. And I was working. I worked through each and every single surgery. I have proof of that too. But I broke. On my 4th surgery, on my 4th surgery, and out there was when I had a blood transfusion. And I was in intensive care. I didn't see my family there. Where was my sister? Where were any of these people there? I was alone. I even have pictures of it.
Your family abandoned you.
Yeah, this was before, and it's all good though. I was used to it. You know what I mean? I was used to it.
Well, apparently it still bothers you, right?
No, it bothers me because they came in here and stole my son. So now, yeah, it does bother me.
Oh, so we're leading up to that.
Yeah, we're leading up to that.
Let's get to that.
We're leading up to that. These people stole my son. Lorena Torres kidnapped my son and lied to the courts. And I know you're hearing this, Lorena, and I know you're seeing this. And I will make justice for you kidnapping my son and poisoning him against me. I will make justice for Carol Henson. Also, Carol Henson, she completely was biased to all of my everything. And Lorena Torres, you never once called the investigator back. You never cared. You never turned in my son's report cards. I don't know how you got custody of my son, but it's not going to stay like that. Anyways, that's my sister. And I'll get to that in a little point. Lorena Torres is my sister, which, by the way, you don't have jurisdiction. And that's something I'm trying to articulate myself into a judgment right now.
Does she have her own kids?
Oh, I'll get to that in a little bit. I'll get to that in a little bit. It's like, okay, it's because I can go all over the place. You know, starting with the kids. I'm trying to stay focused.
I'm trying to connect the dots myself, actually.
Stay focused. Back to the story.
All right, you go ahead.
You don't want to ask me questions. I'll go another route.
Mum's the word.
No. You can talk to me. But okay, so after this happened, on my 4th surgery, I just couldn't do it anymore. I could not work. I was in intensive care. I could not work. I came out and I just stopped working. I wasn't getting any disability benefits at the time. I got them right away. But then again, I got the disability benefits, but then I also did unemployment or something like that. But then they only gave me like 9 months disability. Long story short, that doesn't matter. The whole point is during this whole time, I have $1,750 and $547 car payment, insurance, kids. My youngest son had Jordans on. He had about 6 pairs of Jordans in their own box. Okay, this kid that they took away from me because to give him to a child abuser. Lorena Torres is a child abuser. So they go ahead. So I go ahead and I lose my stuff, right? It comes a month, 2 months. I'm selling things, rings, pawning stuff, trying to pay rent. Nobody was helping me. Just me with my 2 sons. My son had just graduated from high school during this time. There's a change.org. That picture was right after I got sick. So my son had just graduated from high school and he was going to be enrolled in college. He had to unenroll in college because we were going through all of these horrible things. So I start like, what am I going to do? So what happens? I start getting evicted. That's no good. No, the thing is that I started not answering my phone. I started getting creditors coming from over 800 FICO. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I was my credit. You know what I mean, right? So here I come. That's down the drain.
It's very important.
It's everything. It's everything. And once I lost that.
And it's hard to get it back.
Yeah. So 7 years is good. I'm still young. So anywho, I go ahead and I lose my apartment. All this, my kids are still with me, right? Mm-hmm. I end up giving up the apartment because, and by the way, I went in and I represented myself for the eviction and I actually didn't get evicted. I never got evicted. I represented myself. I went in there and I didn't know what to do. So I would sit down in the eviction courtroom and like look at how they were talking to people and then I just figured it out. So what ended up happening is all you had
to do now is watch the Veterans of Politics YouTube
Well,
channel.
This was 3 years ago. This had just happened to me. So I'm like, what's going on? Like 3.5 years ago. Sorry, 3 years ago or so. I turn around and I'm like, they actually paid me to get out of the apartment. I don't know how I pulled that off, but I was studying just like I'm going to get out of this too. So got out of it and they actually paid me to move out. So with that money, I went and I got a motel room for me and my boys. And
you're still in Orange County, right?
Always. I'm going for Orange County, LA County, doesn't matter. Same thing right there. They're both county line. Okay. So I'm doing that, right? And I'm still getting and at this time, my sons, I didn't know what to do because my youngest was in 8th grade and he was so angry with me. The last time my son looked at me, like, I told him I had to sell his cell phone because we didn't have any money. And he had an iPhone. I don't even remember, it was the latest one, iPhone 7 or something. And I said, no, we're going to have to sell your cell phone. They're going to give me $250. He was mad. That's the last time.
Did you wipe out his information?
Of course. I went and I took it to the thing. I got about $250. I put gas. I got in trouble for that, by the way, for asking my son for a cell phone. Lorena Torres made sure that she'll be judged.
Upset too if I was
No, I got in trouble for this, okay? So, I had to look at my son's eyes in a car with all my things in the back. And my son, no one's helping me. To look at my son's face to tell me that? I already knew he was mad, but whatever, man. You know what I mean? I have to keep going, right? Just a mom and dad. I said, Noah, don't say that to me, So anyways, I end up talking to one of my friend's mom. My son's, I got emotional. I got upset now. My son's friend, I knew her since they were young and they were going to school. Then they were like in kindergarten. And I talked to her and I said, this is what's going on. I need your help. I'm picking up my son from school after school, but I can't have him. There's days that I can't afford a motel room. I went to try to get assistance, all the refunds, all the funds that I paid taxes, all those years to get closed. Housing, closed. All the resources, closed. There was no resources, even though I paid all my life into these taxes for these resources.
What year are we talking?
2019. End of 2018 when I got sick. She stole them in 2019. She's trying to take credit for that year that I was.
That was when COVID first started.
It was right before COVID, which, by the way, she did all this to me before COVID.
COVID started March of 2019, right?
Yeah, she had already stolen them for a year by then. And she didn't reply to any of my messages. I'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm here, right, doing all this stuff. And I talked to this lady because I'm not going to ask anybody else. Nobody else is offering. You know, my sisters, they're God knows where. They know that I'm in that issue. They're not helping. I'm not going to go over there and have more issues with these people. They don't even have, whatever. So I talked to her and I said, can I drop them off at night so you can take a shower and eat and sleep here and then pick them up in the morning? And then you take them into school in the morning and then I'll pick them up after school. Like that, he can be in a car and he can be in a house. I don't have to worry about getting a hotel room every night if I don't have that money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was tough.
Stay with your sister.
There it comes. Now, let's pause my story there for a little while so I can give you guys a little bit of background on where my family was at during this time. During this time, 5 years before that, my sister's husband was accused of pedophilia for continued sexual abuse under the children, for kids under the age of 12, children under the age of 12. When we found out these allegations, we were all upset, and I accompanied the victims, of course, to the Anaheim Police Department. Lorena Torres never forgave me for that. After this happened, Lorena Torres had my mom and my dad, my elderly mom and dad, living with her in her house. She kicked them out. So I had to move from my house and go get a house in Norco to give them a huge room with a balcony. She didn't tell that to the judge. No. Actually, the judge does know. She didn't care. So I moved them to Norco. Lorena Torres disappeared from the entire family for 5 years and stayed with this man. This is the woman that stole my son. This man, right before she disappeared for 5 years, I told you that your husband, when I was visiting your house with my 2 boys in the room sleeping, went in there and tried to get frisky with me. And I pretended I was asleep because I thought he was going to either kill me or rape me. And you know that. And I didn't want to wake up my kids.
I am so lost from your story right now.
You're starting to kind of lose me a little bit, too.
Take me back because there's so much drama. This is, by the way, hashtag this is what family court victims sound like.
I want to get to the corruption in the Orange
this is the
County
woman.
family.
Okay, so this is the woman that stole my son. It's very important because this all leads to her stealing my son. Okay, so I'm trying to tell you this story because now there's someone with a motive for revenge. That's the reason I'm telling you guys this story, because this is the motive for the kidnapping.
So she took your kids because she's
out of
upset
spite
with
and
you.
anger. So
Not because you were upset. Not because you were a bad mother.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Then how? The judge agreed with her, right?
No, the judge didn't even had her mind made up since the beginning, and that's where I'm getting at right now.
Okay.
So now let's fast forward it. Now you guys know where my family was at. 5 years.
Your family screwed up.
Well, yeah, but this woman so that's what broke the family apart. That's the incident that broke us all apart, and that's the reason why I was alone with nobody helped. Blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
During this time, it's very important for me to know how I got into the situation. This can happen to anybody. Anybody can get sick, and you're not supposed to attack somebody when you're sick, you know? 5 years after she bailed him out for $100,000, all that stuff. I told all that to the courtrooms. They know all that.
So that was her husband that got arrested?
Yeah. No, he got arrested and she bailed him out. So those 5 years that he was going to trial.
So he got arrested because of
accusations that the victims did.
Oh, okay.
It took.
And your daughter was, or you were one of them?
No. I went with the victims. My kids had nothing to do with it. No, my kids had nothing to do with it. He likes he's child molesters females. Right. So you know how sometimes these disgusting pigs have a preference. So the reason I'm putting this out there is this is very important because this is the heart of the crime. You know, this is her motive. Mm-hmm. This is where this is coming from. For 5 years, this woman disappeared from the entire family. This is before she stole my son. They still gave an estranged sister my son. 5 years she disappeared, didn't talk to anybody in the entire family until his prison term commenced. He got 12 years. This was right before she stole my son. He got a 12-year prison term. And during this time, I had started recently talking to her because her daughter had a quinceañera.
So your sister, husband got 12 years for, what was the charge?
Continued sexual abuse to children under 12. Okay. Got all these charges. 12 years, no minimum.
And this is the same person the judge gave your kids to?
Yeah, his wife. And she.
How much sense does that make? Her husband just got convicted 12 years.
A year before that. How did I just? It doesn't make sense. You see where I'm going with that? The addition doesn't add up.
Okay.
But, so I mean, to be fair though, like, okay, so the husband goes to prison for 12 years. Okay. But what does that have to do with the living conditions?
That's where I'm going. So she offered. That's where I'm getting to. So now you know the problem and why she didn't offer help in the beginning. You know, there was a friction there. Okay. Our kids were now going to the same school district. So she goes, Mabel, you can stay here with the boys if you like. You know, you don't have to be out there sleeping in the hotel room. You're sick, blah, blah, blah. You come here. And so did my nephew. She has 3 kids. One of them is 25 years old right now. The other one is 19 and the other one is 14. All hate me and talk about me constantly. They think that we're all liars. You know, he's with these people. So I'm staying there with her. Then she tells me she doesn't want me in her house. She does not want me in her house. My kids can stay here. So she makes me sleep in the car, outside of her house.
In the parking lot?
Yes. And then she gets mad because I'm sitting in the park. I have my car parked somewhere so they won't see me because, you know, I didn't have any money for a hotel room that night. And both me and so I go and I tell my boys, I told my boys that I felt uncomfortable because we used to have a house and everything. And now I'm sleeping in a little crowded over apartment on the living room floor with our 2 dogs. And I lost everything and Noah's mad at me and it's better if I just sleep in the car so I won't be in the way. So my son kind of thought that was weird because I didn't want them to get mad at my son. Oldest son wouldn't have stayed there. He would have been like, oh, man, if you can't stay here, I can't stay here. I have to think about my kids, right? So it was like that for a little bit. She kicked out my son too, the 18-year-old, 19-year-old son. They were really, really mean to him, but they were coddling and embracing and loving the little one. You know where I'm going with that? So during this time, they were telling my son that I was a loser, that I lost everything, basically just mouthing me. My son started doing really bad in school. I was in constant contact with their schools. I told them when I lost my home, I would always talk to his teachers. I have evidence of all of this. So I end up in the hospital one more time, right? During this time, I end up in the hospital. She kicks out my oldest son. We're not in the hotel rooms. And I talked to her. And I told her, I'm going to get an apartment. I'm going to come pick up my son. He was in junior high and everything. She already knew that. I'm going to come pick him. She knew that I was right there. And then I went to the hospital. I ended up in Kaiser. I was there for weeks. I come out of the hospital. Well, I'm in the hospital. The principal called me, told me my son was getting in a fight at school. How can I have been absent for, this was in February 2019. I come out of the hospital and I say, this is enough. Because she didn't take my son to go see me in the hospital. My son is completely I need to go get my son out of there. I'm going to get out of this hospital and I'm going to go apply for cash aid from the state because I was getting EBT, food stamps. So I'm going to go, but I had just lost my card and reported it stolen. So I'm like, and I need another card. So let me go. I got discharged from the hospital. I go and I tried to go to the social services. I didn't know why this happened to me, but now I'm kind of glad it did. So long story short, there was a mix up in the files, right? I was there to apply for cash aid, but they got confused somewhere and thought I was there to apply for homelessness and I wasn't, and thought I was someone else. So they call me in, a DA officer called Amanda Veach, puts me in a room, a recorded room, and I thought it was because of my EBT. So then I got stolen and I got reported. I didn't know. And, so then she tells me, okay, I see that what you're applying for benefits, but you did tell, over here, you're putting the address of, Anna, Buena Park, your sister. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I live with my sister. And where's your son? At home right now. I just got out of the hospital. Well, where is your son? She was being a complete bitch too. She wasn't supposed to do that. I didn't understand why this was happening to me, but it's a blessing because now there's a recording there somewhere, which by the way, the courts also ignored. She tells me, well, I'm going to confirm your story. So I'm going to pick up the phone right now and I'm going to contact your sister without you calling her first. And it's a recorded call. I'm like, okay, it's going to be recorded. I'm like, all right. She calls him, hi, this is Amanda Veach from the DNA. Hi, yeah, this is Lorena Torres. Hi, yeah, I have your sister, Mabel Arroyo. Oh, my sister's in the hospital. And, oh, okay. She says that she's staying with you. Is that true? Yes, she lives here with her 2 sons. She's currently staying here because she lost her apartment and she's sick. She said this. She goes, and I'm also going to, and she goes, okay. And I'm just sitting here until she gets a new apartment, and she's fine. I have her kids here. She's in the hospital. Well, she's not in the hospital. She's in front of me here right now. Okay. That was in the ends of February, beginning of March, I believe, 2019, right? She told me, come and get that was in March, 2019. She told me, come and get your child. So anyways, long story short, I got an apartment out here in Las Vegas. That's to answer your question. It was the cheapest thing. Out there it was 3 times first and last month's rent when $1,750. You can't do it. I couldn't do it. So to answer your question, that's why I came to Nevada. Because when we looked over here, it was no deposit, $250. It's not like that no more, so don't come over here. No, it's not like that anymore. It's really not like that. It was $250 just to be a proof of the apartment. It's like a deposit hold. And we had to pay for our, our applications, and that's it. We paid out, it was like apartment was so cheap, so we got an apartment right away, right?
You've been fighting for your kids here in Nevada.
Yeah, from Nevada. Wow. I've been going to...
While they're in Orange County.
Yeah, and at this time, my car had broken down, and I'm here struggling. And I got the apartment, and it's dated 5/8/2019, because, of course, I called, and I had to come over here. And I was getting my son for 2019, so I got the apartment, and it has both of my son's name on it.
For the interest of time, we got to move right into the courtroom, get to the corruption.
This is the courtroom. I'm already done there. So now I'm trying to pick up my son. I go to pick up my son, right? I go to his school. I call him and I say, Noah, I'm going to be there. They already knew I was coming. 2 days before that, both me and my son, my eldest son, are on our way. We're excited. We're happy. We got our place back. Let's go pick up your brother. Let's go to Nevada, right? Mm-hmm. So I go and try to pick him up. And my son's like, okay, after school. So I'm waiting. So I go into the school with my eldest son. I even took a picture in the parking lot. So I have that on GPS picture. Oh, I did that. I was rushing my back. Anyway, so I go in there and I asked to withdraw him because I'm moving to Nevada, and I asked him if they can send him to Western High School out here in Nevada. So they said, sure, great. I'm mom, everything. It's 8th grade. I said, I'm sorry, he's not going to be able to promote here at the end of the month. I got to go now. You know what I mean? He's going to leave. It was like a month before promotion. It's fine. I tried my best to let him stay there. He's got to go. He has to be a little man and be a little boy and be a little, my son, and go with his mom. Whether he likes it or not, we all have those issues. And this is where she got involved. She took advantage of that. So my son didn't want to move to junior high. Didn't want to leave high school. He wanted to stay with his friends. Very normal, right? Hated his mom during this time. Very normal, right? Kids hate us around that time sometimes. Even, it doesn't matter. There's kids that even kill their parents. I mean, it really does happen. What I'm trying to say is that during this time,
like it happens.
During this time, children are vulnerable. They are growing up.
Yeah.
They're going through adolescence. They have different hormones running in their body. They hate their parents. They took advantage of that. And instead of the courts helping and defending me, they didn't. So I go over there and I say, give me my son. I'm there waiting 4 hours. I already exited him out of school. She doesn't want to return my son. They won't open the door. I said, open the door, Lorena. This is where everything got crazy. She was in the house and she had her daughter's friends there. And this is what she was very mad at me because I said, Lorena, give me my son back. I said, it's my son and give me my son. I said, you're just mad at me. I go, I've been waiting for you hours. At first she said she didn't know where he was at. I go, how can you not know where my son is at? So she was hiding and concealing him, which in California, that's 278, that's abduction. She was hiding and concealing him from his sole custodial parent, which would be me, right? So I doesn't want to give it to me, so I call the police officers. I call the Buena Park Police Department. I have that was part of my lawsuit. I have all records of this, even phone calls, everything I'm telling you. So the Buena Park Police Department, 2 officers show up. I have the badge numbers. They show up to the scene and they go in the house with her behind closed doors with my child. I had a problem with that. Why are you taking my son to be interviewed with this woman behind closed doors? No, that's my son. They made me and my eldest son stand outside. They treated me like they were first nice. Then they come out and I didn't know they were setting me up, but then they come out and they're like, okay, look. She starts saying all these things in front of the officers. I go, look, I just want my son back. I'm here for my son. That's all that matters.
He's a minor and you the parent. Yeah.
Yeah. So
how hard is that to figure out?
Yeah. So the officer, exactly. So the officers tell her to meet me. So anyways, my son's all crying. Everybody's there crying. She's saying that I embarrassed her because her daughter's friends all thought that their dad was in Mexico or out to a project at work. So why did I stand there in outside her house? See, I just got arrested like a year before that. So why did I stand there and say those things in front of her? And then she said that if I don't give her my son back, then I'm going to go protest in front of her work. And she said, and she did it. So they told her, okay, look, let's not fight.
Involved?
Never, nothing. This was everything that I'm telling you guys is everything that took place. No CPS, no nothing, no gals, no nothing. I never.
So was any of this in the courtroom?
Yes. So no, none of this was in the courtroom. So
because I'm still like.
I'm confused, right?
Yeah.
Confused.
Yeah. I'm really confused.
Confused.
Honestly.
Exactly confused. So the cops tell me the next day, look, I thought to myself as a parent, I'm not going to take this little, 13, my son is now 13. He's mad because I'm moving him from high school. I'm going to have a 5-hour drive. At this time, he's 13 years old. Oh. I'm going to have a 5-hour drive with him mad with me. And when we're supposed to be happy time, supposedly he didn't say bye to his friends. So I said, what am I going to do? I'm not going to just force him out of there. I'm always the best for my son. So I said, look, I didn't think that my sister was going to steal my son. They said, why don't we meet tomorrow? He needs to say bye to his friends and pack up his things and meet tomorrow for a friendly exchange at the Buena Park Police Department at 2:00, which is part of the text that I sent you. And then she goes, okay. I said, all right. Well, then what did I do? It was Friday. So keep in mind that I have a little bit of money and now I have to pay a weekend Friday night, $100 and something to go now and wait for the next day.
You got to get yourself a hotel room.
A hotel room out there. Everything was booked. And remember, Buena Park is where Knott's Berry Farm is at. Anaheim is where Disneyland is at. It was all booked. So I had to get an inn at Anaheim Hills, which is the more expensive part. It was expensive. So then I go to the next day. So fast forward 2:00. I text her. If you see the text that I send her, 1:55. We're here. She put OMW on my wave. Gets there, gets off the car, gives me a dirty look, walks in to a designated area, which told me they were already being biased with me, to a designated area on the northeast part of the building, sits down, and they didn't allow me to get my son. The Patterson, badge number 980, that's his name. He was completely rude to me. He said, show me proof that you have custody of your son. This is a cop. This is before everything happened with the riots.
Show you proof?
Yes. This is before everything happened with the riots. So remember, the cops were more brazen back then. They were more bullying us. Now they're more careful.
Did you have his birth certificate handy?
No, I told them, I had it on my stuff. So I said, the only thing I have with me is my birth certificate. I don't have anything for. I need something showing that isn't she? And then of course you can just imagine, isn't she the one that's supposed to be proving that she has custody of my son? Yeah. There is no court order. There's no good cause for you to retain me from my child aside her stories. Stories are not the law.
We got to move into the courtroom. Quick.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, he didn't give my son, told me to leave. I called the Anaheim Police Department. They wouldn't help me either. They said, he told me I need to go to CPS card. So now Monday comes. This is important because this was Saturday. I got another day. Saturday and Sunday I paid for a night at a hotel room. And Monday night too, because I have to go find out how do I get my son out of her house. So I don't know how she found out so early, but I go on the computer. I find out that I have to go to the Lamoureux courthouse in Orange County, which is, by the way, where Jason got his restraining order. Lamoureux courthouse in Orange County, where they steal your kids. They hand out
Jason D'Souza.
Okay. They just hand out restraining orders at Hawkins. You want a restraining order? Go get one. They come with a package but a lot of suffering too. So then they go. Now I go to the courthouse. It's like 9. I find out. I go with my son, and I'm there, and I get to the South Helpline, and I tell the lady, hey, oh, well, it looks like there's a restraint party, and the restraint party is you. That's it. That was it.
So there was a
for 3 years. Yeah. She put a restraining order on me. Okay.
Without going to court?
She went to court, apparently. Okay, so now.
Did you get served?
She didn't serve me.
Okay.
She didn't serve me. So she didn't serve me.
So you knew nothing about the.
No, I'm there trying, not only that, but she cannot do that to me because she is not a parent. You can only, so anyway, I'll get to that in a little bit. So, I ended up going and, crying, telling them I want to speak to a supervisor. They told me so now I am now restricted. So Amendment 14 states that you cannot take away my property, my liberty, or my life without due process of law, correct?
Yeah.
So, but now they have taken my property, which is my son.
That's the Constitution.
Exactly. So now they have taken my property, which is my son, because when the Constitution was written, property were referred to as children. Our children were referred to as property. That's what the 14th Amendment is for. So now they have taken away my life too, because that's my life. Because it's been 3 years and she has murdered 3 years out of my life with my son and my eldest son. So now there's a problem. So I go and I find out I'm completely lost in the system. They tell me show up 3 weeks from now. And I keep showing up to courtrooms. That's all I did was keep showing up. Today's not the day later. Today's not the day later. Today's not the day later. And every single time I went to court, I would tell them she abducted my son. So today's not the day. Well, does it matter if today's not the day?
Is there a court case involved, or are you just randomly showing up to the court?
What do you mean?
Because you can't do that.
Can't do what?
No, so you're okay, so help me understand this.
Yeah.
So you keep saying that you're going to the court and they're saying now is not the day.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about my continued appointment, like my continued. So every time that I would go to court, thinking that's the day that they're gonna give me my son back. I don't know courts. Remember, I'm lost in the system, right?
Okay.
And don't forget, I'm also sick, trying to recover, getting better, right?
So you got an apartment in Vegas, but you're still hanging out in Orange County.
Well, I'm not hanging out in Orange County. My son is over there.
I know, but you're still there trying to get a court
So
date.
California put a lien on my son. That's what they did. They put a lien on my son. So anyway, so I kept going to court.
What do you mean they put a lien? They put a restraining order?
Well, yeah, they have my son. So that's a lien. They put something on my son. I can't take him. They have a lien on him. I'm just saying it like the way
So they restrained you from your son?
Yes, they have not. So this whole time, then she goes, and I'm just noticing all these things because now it's been 3 months and I'm representing myself now. I fired my attorney. So everything I'm knowing now, I'm knowing it from the last 3-4 months. I filed in federal. Right now I'm filing 2 void judgments in the lower courts and I'm trying to articulate because she did not have jurisdiction to do that. And I want to tell all the parents out there that are in family courts, the family attorneys are lying to you. They're telling you that you do not have a right to appeal. You only have about 90 days or 180 days after the verdict is read to appeal. These family court judges,
County, right?
this is everywhere the state.
After an order is signed here in Nevada, you have 20 days to appeal.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I don't know everything yet. But from what I know, 20 days. No, but I'm talking about like custody. From what I read for custody.
Okay.
Custody has a little bit of a longer time because it's custody. From what I read, they have up to 180 days, 6 months. But this is where I'm upset. Family law attorneys just take your money, right? They're not going to do a void judgment. Why? Because they have to work with these judges. They see them all the time. How are they going to go and say, Judge, you made a mistake? You know what I'm saying? I'm voiding it, so they're not going to do it. And they can't represent you, from what I know of, they can't represent you in appellate court. So what they're doing is they're keeping you in there, telling you that you can't approve, and that's something that I want to fix. Why do we have family law attorneys? Why do we have family courtrooms?
Tell me, I don't think you're hitting on the corruption in Orange County.
Okay, let's get to the corruption.
What did they do that was corrupt?
Well, they, the entire time that I was going through these courtrooms, I submitted all evidence showing the opposite. They refused to read any of it, or they read it. They were accepted it to evidence. I had a family court wizard that they set up for us to communicate the whole entire year. She never returned any calls on it. One time that I went over there, that I got one unmonitored visit, I drove over there and she didn't let me have this unmonitored visit. I brought all of this to the judge. The judge kept muting me. Carol Henson kept muting me. I also read her letter right before in October when I had to go to another court date, and I read her letter letting her know it has just come to my attention, and I read, it came to my attention, and I told her everything about the law and how she's not supposed to take my stuff and how she didn't have jurisdiction. She actually got scared, and she said she was going to void the restraining order because now my sister took me to 2 courts. She took me to the Lamoureux Court and then Superior Court. The Lamoureux Court went ahead on the paperwork. Number one, what's corrupt is they weren't supposed to give her jurisdiction without good cause. The only way that she can get jurisdiction out there is if she has good cause.
This is the court in Santa Ana?
This is the court in Lamoureux, in Orange.
Oh.
So number one, they were never supposed to give her that restraining order. And in order for her to say that her claims are that I abandoned my son and she was scared of me. That's why I was bringing up the whole thing with the phone call and all those things that happened before, because it's very important for me to give you a little bit of history of, hey, I was just a mom that got sick during this time. And, I trusted a family member. I stayed at their house. This family member went ahead and screwed me over for whatever personal reasons and bad blood that a lot of people do have in the family. I'm not here to change any of those things. However, why is now the rule of law being ignored and all these personal problems being brought up, and what's going on here? So I tried my hardest. I had an attorney. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. I just kept getting continued courts. And now I'm going according to courtrooms. Okay. Every time I would go to the Superior Court of Orange County, where Carol Henson is at. First, I had a David Fields. And I requested a trial. I requested to be a jury in a trial. They went ahead on the day of my of the actual court date.
You requested a jury?
I requested a jury and I requested a trial.
So
I didn't know what I was.
In family court.
I didn't know what that was back then. That's what I just told them, because at that time my attorney was useless. And then I'm like, I don't want just a judge reading this.
Did they give you one?
What happened was that I showed up to court, and that same morning they called me and told me they gave me a new judge. I was lost. They moved me from C7 courtroom to C10. They did this all in 20 minutes. And I had this new woman, and now I know that I didn't stipulate to her. So now I know that, but I didn't know that then, So this woman took 2-3 months to decide the case. She allowed people from my family that haven't seen me in 10 years to go and testify against me. These people were saying things like, I haven't seen her in 10 years, or I don't know what's going on. I'm just here because she's saying really bad things about our family on Facebook. All this little hearsay evidence, there's a pentacle on her Facebook. Let's talk about it. What is he talking about? And then I objected. That's hearsay.
How does that have anything to do with you being a parent?
Exactly. So I objected to that. I said, that's hearsay evidence. I defended myself well in court. She kept muting me. I said, you know what? Objection, Your Honor. That's hearsay evidence. A Facebook post. We don't have this post here. No, that's okay. I want to hear it. Go ahead and explain it to me. Because it's the pinnacle, mountain. Well, what do you do with the mountain? Explain that to me. And I'm like, that's my spiritual beliefs. You know what I mean? That's a spiritual belief. Objection. First Amendment. I just didn't want to talk about any post because I shouldn't be. Because it's irrelevant. What does that have anything to do with my parenting? So are you gonna ground me? Yeah, am I gonna get grounded? So no, I go ahead, I want to hear this. She completely made a mockery of the law with everything. One of the witnesses the witnesses that were provided against me were people that she picked, Lorena Torres picked. My monitors to watch my son, if I wanted to see my son, are my sister's best friend and the other sister who doesn't like me. I objected to that too.
You got supervised visits?
I got supervised visits with her best friend is my monitor. Her best friend hates me.
How did she become primary custodian?
Because the judge, this is what's going on. So I gave him all this proof. I told the judge, I want to know that same thing too. I want to know why the judge didn't read any of my evidence. I want to know why the judge went ahead and ignored it. I want to know why the judge got upset when I said that my son lives with 2 same-sex partners. And he lives with a single mom. He sleeps in the living room floor, and he has had his room empty ever since. The entire time. Why is my son orphaned, sleeping in a living room floor, hating his mother and his brother, and I'm not allowed to talk to him? That makes no sense, Your Honor. And then she mutes me, and she tells me, if that's the way you talk to people, no wonder your son can't stand talking to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I have a list now. I can sit here and go on forever, but you can guys tell by the way I talk that I could probably just go all over the place, It was so much injustice. The witnesses against me were just people that went to go tell, and I provided proof that evidence was right in front of her, that these people stole from me and left me out to die after, just side notes, but it doesn't matter. But I gave her proof that these people have caused me and my physical self harm, and that why are there, so basically what they did, I don't know if you guys ever remember the Salem witch trials back in 1692 when 6 girls, well, I don't know if you guys heard about it. The whole story is it was 6 girls that were paranoid, and they thought they were accusing people of saying that they were dreaming of the devil. So all these people got put to death. They were hung, and they were just regular people. So the people that testified,
there was actually only 13 that actually were hung.
Really? Because it said 19 on the court docs. Oh, because I went.
I could be wrong.
Oh, okay, no, it was 19. So then,
well, no, the one reason why I brought it up, just real quick, is because when that gets brought up, some people say that they think it was like thousands of people, but it actually wasn't.
No, well, what they probably are talking about is that they did that in many places.
Yeah.
But this one was the one that, so what happened is that they had a royal charter and they canceled their royal charter. So that they thought that it was like a punishment from God, the pastor, and the pastor's daughter is the one that started everything. And if you actually look back, it had nothing to do with witchcraft. So, nothing at all. They were just, so my point here is that this is the same way that this judge, and it's part of my letter too, when I'm reporting her to the judicial committee. And I'm going to quote that as my case, even though it was before the Constitution, because what they did here to execute these people is they allowed people that had like problem, like they had either envy or they owed money or they didn't like them. So they were in there saying, yes, I trammed her. She was in my window in a broom, and then they killed them. So it's the same thing here.
We're not talking about your case.
We're talking about my case because it's the same thing that happened. No, I'm talking about what happened when these people got murdered by this Judge Bureaus. This judge went ahead and murdered all these people by hearsay evidence because people didn't like each other. Gotcha. The Constitution was written 90-something years later. I'm pretty sure they had that in mind when they wrote the Constitution. So that stayed, and it's been changed around many, 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 many times, the story. But the story is, the point is that that's what happened to me now. In 2019 to 2022, I didn't know that people that had a problem with me can go testify against me. And these people were saying, oh, I've always known Mabel. She's always been a good mom. They all say I was a great mother. But since she got sick and lost her house, she's not a good mom. My tia Mabel, my tia Lorena is more responsible than my tia Mabel. That's the evidence that was used against me. So then
very strong and compelling.
Yes. So no, I have a good case, trust me. So I'm sitting here. Not only are these people from my family attacking me, so the whole point, let's stick to the corruption.
So you filed a suit in federal court.
I filed a suit in federal court.
And how does that? How does that suit look like? What are your allegations?
So my allegations are: I'm suing Lorena. I'm trying to avoid the judgment, right? Trying to go above this court, which I now find out. Now I know new information. I was trying to go above this court because I started representing myself all of a sudden. I said, you know what? I got to wake up. I got to do something. No one's going to save my kid, and I'm not going to walk away from this. So with the federal court right now, the way it looks, okay, so she has to be sitting in another state for us to have jurisdiction. So what they did is they told me that I have to go file in California because so everyone knows, whenever you guys say I'm going to go sue in federal, whenever you want to sue somebody in federal, they can't void the judgment. It has to be voided through those courts. There is actually case law on that because they told me to go to California. So right now I'm in the process of putting the 2 void judgments in the lower courts because I'm just going to attack jurisdiction. So once I attack the very first thing, there is no jurisdiction after that. Everything else is void. Everything else moving from the day forward from that day is void. Like it never existed. So now let's talk about damages for the past 3 years. Look at all this work I'm doing. Look at all these, I have not had a normal life since I haven't had my son. I've been defamed. They have defamed me. They've told everybody around town that I've been on all these extracurricular funny activities, okay?
What is that?
They've insulted me of everything. They've told, you name it, prostitution, drug use, everything. And the courts have allowed this defamation. So I have a lot of lawsuits, but I just have to first void the judgment.
File one in federal?
I filed one in federal, and now I'm going to have to, they told me to.
Your sister or
I did it against the sister. Well, with the state, it's a little bit more complicated. Mm-hmm. With the state, I'm not just going to go throw myself at the state. With the state, there's a certain way that you have to sue. And that's what I'm actually working on right now because I'm actually want to sue the state too. But I think right now I need to focus on, I'm already almost done with those. So this is what I'm doing now. Now that I know what I'm doing, I'm finishing my 10-page letter for the Judicial Committee on every.
A judicial complaint against the
yes, on every. So I have to sit there and go through every single little thing. Now, everything I think of, I go back on my notepad and I write it down. So I'm going to include that. It's 3 years of abuse, years of abuse.
Did you appeal the judge's decision to the Supreme?
I did not yet because I've been looking at that because you have a notice. So what you have to do to file an appeal in the appellate court, only 20% of them get approved. So you got to be really careful. Mm-hmm. So I have to, exactly what I'm telling you right now. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to file the 2 voided judgments. Then I'm going to use that same brief and add a notice to appeal because the way that you do a notice to appeal is that you have to do your brief and you cannot bring up any evidence from the past.
When was the judgment signed from the judge? The order.
See, that's where I'm confused because she went ahead and gave her she gave her custody.
When did the order sign? When was the order signed?
She tried it in March and she also signed it in October. So that's where I'm confused at. But
March of last year?
Yes.
There's a statute of limitations on that.
Yes, I do, but not with void judgments. It could be because it was bought on by fraud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to file everywhere. So right now I have a petition going. If you guys want to, please sign it for me. I am sending it to the governor, to the attorney general in California, the governor, the attorney general. And I'm thinking of adding, I don't know if I should add Biden in there too. mayor,
That
anybody.
won't do no good.
That's why I didn't have him. So what I'm doing is the Department of Justice, I'm putting all that information in there. And as soon as I'm done, I'm going to turn that in with my void judgment, which I'm going to drive to California next week to do. So my ideas right now are to file the void judgment in the 2 lower courts, and then I'm also going to file another one with my same void judgment that I'm going to put the notice of appeal so that can be sent to appellate court. If whatever they want, what are they going to do? Dismiss it? What are they going to do? So I'm going to file in civil court in California. I'm going to hit all the courts that I can. So go ahead.
We're coming close to an end.
All right.
So what I need you to do is because you got the final words, look into the camera and say whatever you want. And if we miss something, you can bring it up at that time and your point of contact if you want to give it.
Okay.
And Mark's going to zoom in on you.
All right. Okay, so my name is Mabel Lozano. I could be reached at mabelloveshersons@gmail.com, and that Mabel and Loves does not share an L, and it's sons with an S. I also have a petition going right now on change.org. You could probably see it attached to the link. If you can please sign and share it. I want them to make justice and complete a full criminal investigation into the kidnapping of my son. I also want Lorena Torres to be behind bars for violating Title U.S. Section Code 18, kidnapping, 3201. Lorena Torres, you have kidnapped my son. You have lied to the courts, and you are now poisoning my son. I am not going to stop, Lorena. There is no statute of limitations on kidnapping. It doesn't matter how long it takes me. I will make sure the entire world knows that you are a kidnapper and a child abuser. And if you guys can all please sign my petition and share it, and we'll give you an update later on in a month. I should have much more of an update. I'm going this weekend and getting signatures out here in Las Vegas.
You have anything else?
No. Other than I appreciate the fact that you, lots of times we get people on and, family court, unfortunately, is a mess. But at least you're following up. You're doing due diligence. And that's enlightening, because sometimes Steve has to say, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And they're like, well, not yet. And it's like, so I appreciate the fact that you are doing the right things to try to find justice.
Yeah. And just so you know, Mama Bear's been on it for 4 months, and I've gotten this far, Lorena. I got better. I was sick. She didn't let me get better, but that's my son. I carried him in my body. You have no right to steal my son and have full custody of him right now. And I will make justice. Carol Henson, the judge from, if you can put up her picture, please. This is Carol Henson. She kidnaps your kids, and she used to work for the DA office as well. She is a danger to the community and needs to be taken off the bench. We need to take her off the bench. I don't know about other judges, and I don't know about other corruption. I'm talking about Carol Henson. Carol Henson, you ruled with bias and you abused your authority. And I'm also going to sign a petition pretty soon. I'm going to start a petition pretty soon to make sure you are no longer on that bench. Thank you.
Well, Mabel Lozano, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your story with us.
Jim.
Like always. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones with Veterans in Politics. That was Mabel Lozano talking about the corruption in Orange County, California Family Court. Until next time.